President Trump's first month, America is back. There is no doubt about it. Securing our homeland. He's got the whole thing going. Everything that he campaigned on, he listened to you. He listened to me. He listened to Kat. He listened to everybody. And guess what? You are getting everything and more that he campaigned on. So you've got him just getting started. He took office, if you can believe it, just 1 month ago. He's already accomplished more than most presidents do in their entire term, and he is making good on his promise to usher in the new golden age of America. The golden man is bringing great changes. So you've got a comprehensive, they're calling it a non-comprehensive list of what President Trump's wins are just after 1 month. It's just, there's so much that's happening. Even as I speak, something else is being done. Securing our homeland, President Trump declared a national emergency at the border and deployed the military, including the 10th Mountain Division, to secure our nation. Illegal border crossings have hit lows not seen in decades as U.S. Border Patrol is re-empowered to once again enforce the law. ABC News, here's a quote, from January 21st through January 31st, the number of U.S. Border Patrol apprehensions along the southwest border, they dropped 85% from the same period in 2024. This is according to data obtained by ABC News. In the 11 days after January 20th, migrants apprehended at the border, at the ports of entry, declined by 93%. Illegal aliens have started turning around in droves amid the crackdowns. The Department of Homeland Security announced that arrests of criminal illegal aliens have doubled under President Trump. President Trump signed the Laken-Riley Act into law, which requires illegal immigrants arrested or charged with theft or violence to be detained, honoring the legacy of Laken Riley, a Georgia college student brutally murdered by an illegal alien released into the country. President Trump ended catch and release, reversing the dangerous Biden-era policy that released dangerous illegal aliens back into our communities. President Trump shut down the CBP One app, which paroled more than 1 million illegal immigrants into the country. A migrant shelter in San Diego announced it will shut down after it has received no new arrivals since President Trump took office. President Trump terminated all taxpayer-funded public benefits for illegal aliens. President Trump ramped up deportation flights of criminal illegal aliens. After President Trump announced urgent and decisive retaliatory measures against Colombia over its refusal to accept deportation flights from the U.S., the country's president quickly backtracked, even offering the use of his personal plane for the deportations. El Salvadorian president offered to accept deportees of any nationality, including violent American criminals currently imprisoned in the U.S. President Trump also began transferring criminal illegal aliens to Guantanamo Bay ahead of their repatriation back to their own countries. President Trump also reestablished the successful Remain in Mexico policy that was so successful in his first term. President Trump restarted construction of the border wall. The Trump administration officially declared the gang Tren de Aragua, MS-13, the cartels, all of these different cartels, the Gulf Cartel, the Northeast Cartel, as foreign terrorist organizations. New York City, Eric Adams, he agreed to allow federal immigration officials to operate on Rikers Island and deport illegal alien criminals following his meeting with border czar Tom Homan. Mexico announced a deployment of 10,000 troops to the border to combat illegal immigration and fentanyl trafficking, while Canada announced a flurry of measures to combat fentanyl manufacturing and trafficking following President Trump's imposition of tariffs on to the two countries. I've never seen backtracking from countries in my life as fast as it did with Mexico and Canada. And I love that President Trump is tormenting Trudeau for his remainder in office, time in office, as the 51st state in this country. It's just a right. We definitely have earned it. I mean it. I'm serious. We have helped Canada out in so many different ways that they should be considered the 51st state at this rate anyway. President Trump implemented an additional 10% tariff on imports from China in order to stem the flow of illegal aliens and fentanyl. President Trump ordered an end to birthright citizenship. President Trump suspended the U.S. refugee admissions program. The Department of Justice filed suit against the state of New York and some of its elected officials over their willful failure to follow federal immigration law and announced that it will take action against so-called sanctuary cities for their obstruction of U.S. law. The Department of Homeland Security clawed back tens of millions of dollars in funds paid by rogue FEMA officials to house illegal aliens in luxury New York City hotels. President Trump reinstated the death penalty for federal capital crimes. This is just the beginning. This is 1 month. I'm not finished. Protecting American workers and fostering economic growth. President Trump restored a 25% tariff on steel imports and elevated the tariff to 25% on aluminum imports to protect these critical American industries from unfair foreign competition, a move praised by the Steel Manufacturers Association, the Aluminum Association, and the businesses across the country. All of them are on board with this whole thing. Robert Simon, CEO of JSW Steel USA, praised President Trump's steel and aluminum tariffs, celebrating them as a project that will flood the U.S. with jobs as trading partners move their industries to U.S. soil to avoid tariffs. Hey, maybe there's a place for all of these federal workers after all. There's going to be jobs. I don't know what they're complaining about. I mean, they got severance and everything else. I thought that was mighty kind and generous, by the way. I don't know if I would have been as generous, so to say. I really do not. But he is doing it. You've got the CEO of global automaker Nissan said President Trump's tariff could push the car manufacturer to move its production from Mexico to the U.S. President Trump unveiled a plan for fair and reciprocal trade, making clear to the world that the United States will no longer tolerate being ripped off. President Trump secured hundreds of billions of dollars in new investments. President Trump announced the largest artificial intelligence infrastructure project in history, securing $500 billion in planned private sector investment, with major CEOs agreeing it would not have been possible without President Trump's leadership. You have Saudi Arabia, who declared its intention to invest $600 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years. President Trump secured a $20 billion investment by DAMAC Properties to build new U.S.-based data centers. Taiwan pledged to boost its investment in the United States. You have electronics giant Samsung and LG who are considering moving their plants in Mexico to the U.S. now that President Trump is back in office. In February, forecasters from the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia revised their economic growth projections for the first quarter of 2025, which is up from 1.9% to 2.5%, and their unemployment rate projections for the quarter down from 4.2% to 4.1%. Does this have winning all over it or what? After a meeting with President Trump, you have Stellantis, who announced it will reopen its assembly plant back in Illinois, putting 1,500 employees back to work, and it will build its next generation Dodge Durango in Detroit, Michigan. The company also announced new investments in Ohio and in their Indiana facilities as well. Following President Trump's victory, the S&P 500 set a new record as the stock market surged to record highs, while major Wall Street firms like J.P. Morgan Chase posted their highest ever annual profits. As far as lowering the price of living is concerned, President Trump directed the heads of all executive departments and agencies to deliver emergency price relief to American people and increase the prosperity of the American worker. President Trump established the National Energy Dominance Council to maximize the use of the U.S. extensive energy resources, thereby enabling lower energy prices. Crude oil prices have fallen over 5% since President Trump took office. The Department of Energy postponed burdensome Biden-era efficiency standard rules for following appliances, saving American consumers large sums. You have the central air conditioners that Biden rules were slated to make air conditioners $1,100 more expensive. This is according to Alliance for Consumers. You had gas water heaters that Biden rules were slated to make water heaters $2,800 more expensive. You have clothes washers and dryers. Biden rules were slated to make washers $200 more expensive. Light bulbs, well, Biden rules were slated to make light bulbs $140 more expensive. Walk-in coolers and freezers, commercial refrigeration equipment, and air compressors, of course. The total cost of federal regulations in 2023 was a record-breaking $2.1 trillion, or $15,788 per U.S. household. This is according to the Competitive Enterprise Institute. By requiring agencies to identify at least 10 existing rules, regulations, or guidance documents to be repealed for every one rule they promulgate, President Trump has put the U.S. back on track to severely reduce regulatory costs for everyday Americans. The National Associations of Manufacturers found the cost of federal regulations was even greater, at $3.079 trillion in 2022. Secretary Sean Duffy's first action at the Department of Transportation was to initiate rulemaking resetting corporate average fuel economy. These are standards. He wants them effectively eliminating the Biden-era electric vehicle mandate. You have the NBER economist Mark R. Jacobson, who estimates that a 1 mpg increase in CAFE standard cost consumers of all income levels approximately 0.5% of their income in the first year of the increase. By the 10th year following the increase, however, this cost becomes regressive as the increase drives up the price of used cars. 1 mpg increase in the CAFE standards cost consumers earnings less than $25,000 per year. That's 1.12% of their income, but only costs consumers earning more than $75,000 per year 0.41% of their income. This is major. Reestablishing American strength. Well, President Trump has secured the release of 6 American hostages in Venezuela, 2 Americans in Afghanistan, and an American-Israeli citizen in Hamas captivity, a Pennsylvania teacher in Russia captivity, Then you have an American citizen in Belarus, bringing the total number of American hostages released under President Trump to 11. President Trump spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukraine President Zelensky in pursuit of finally securing peace as negotiations get underway. President Trump restored maximum pressure on Iran, sanctioning the international network for facilitating the shipment of millions of barrels of Iranian crude oil worth hundreds of millions of dollars to the People's Republic of China. President Trump redesignated the Iran-backed Houthis as a foreign terrorist organization. President Trump hosted Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for a visit where he proposed a bold vision for securing lasting peace in Gaza. That made the left completely freak out. Boy, I've never heard the squealing so intense than when that was announced. Former U.S. ambassador to Israel, you had David Friedman, who described the proposal as brilliant, historic, and the only idea I've heard in 50 years that has a chance of bringing security, peace, and prosperity to this troubled region. President Trump hosted Japanese Prime Minister, who announced his intention to elevate Japan's investment in the United States to an unprecedented amount of $1 trillion, import historic quantities of LNG from Alaska, and open new auto plants in the U.S. President Trump hosted Jordan's King Abdullah II, who announced that the kingdom will accept 2,000 sick children from Gaza as quickly as possible. These are very, very sick children, and he has offered to take them in. President Trump hosted Indian Prime Minister Modi for a visit where they announced new deals between the two countries on immigration, trade, energy, and artificial intelligence. President Trump banned funding from UNRWA, a United Nations agency that employed hundreds of Hamas and jihad operatives. President Trump imposed sanctions on the International Criminal Court, which has illegitimately asserted jurisdiction over internal U.S. matters and baselessly targeted Benjamin Netanyahu. This is something that we have seen over and over again. President Trump reinstated the Mexican City policy to ensure no taxpayer dollars support foreign organizations that perform or actively promote abortion in other nations. The Department of State ordered embassies worldwide to only fly the American flag, not activist flags. President Trump declared all foreign policy must be conducted under the president's direction, ensuring career diplomats reflect the foreign policy of the United States at all times. The Department of State declared that U.S. foreign policy will be America first going forward. Following a visit from State Marco Rubio, you have the Panamanian president, Molino, who agreed to withdraw from China's Belt and Road Initiative, a debt trap diplomacy scheme the Chinese Communist Party uses to gain influence over developing nations. The U.S. rejoined the Geneva Consensus Declaration, which promotes and strengthens opportunities for women and girls around the world and protects the family as the fundamental unit of society. President Trump cracked down on anti-Semitism by canceling visas for foreign students who are Hamas sympathizers. President Trump ordered the immediate dismissal of the Board of Visitors for the Army, Air Force, Navy, and Coast Guard following years of woke ideologies infiltrating U.S. service academics. You have the U.S. Army, who barred transgender people from enlisting and stopped them from using taxpayer funds for sex change surgeries. I certainly don't want my money going to that. I'm sure you don't either. President Trump reinstated with back pay U.S. service members who were discharged under the military's nonsensical COVID-19 vaccine mandate. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth restored Fort Liberty, North Carolina, to Fort Bragg in honor of a World War II hero. President Trump withdrew the U.S. from the World Health Organization. Bravo. President Trump paused enforcement of the overregulation of American businesses abroad, which negatively impacted national security. President Trump proclaimed Gulf of America Day after Department of the Interior officially established it on its mapping databases. And this was hilarious because the AP is now suing President Trump because they're so angry they can't get in and report at the White House. But they're fake news. I mean, why would you, right? President Trump initiated a process to build a next-generation missile defense shield over the United States. Why not? Seriously, why not? Israel has one, and it's worked wonders. Unleashing American energy. Here's an update on all of that. President Trump declared a national energy emergency to unlock America's full energy potential and to bring down costs for American families. President Trump rescinded every one of the Biden administration's job-killing, pro-China, anti-American energy regulations. President Trump empowered Americans with choice in vehicles, shower heads, toilets, washing machines, light bulbs, and dishwashers. And he killed the Biden-era regulations that restricted water flow and mandated inadequate light bulb standards. President Trump terminated the job-killing Green New Scam. President Trump withdrew from the disastrous Paris Climate Agreement, which unfairly ripped off our country. President Trump paused federal permitting for massive wind farms, which degrade our natural landscapes and fail to serve American consumers. President Trump reversed the bureaucratic regulations that impeded Alaska's ability to develop its vast natural resources. President Trump reopened 625 million acres for offshore drilling, which Biden banned in his waning days in order to drill, baby, drill. And that's exactly what we're doing. President Trump scrapped an Obama-era rule on greenhouse gases. President Trump ended the liquefied natural gas pause and approved the first LNG projects since the Biden administration banned them last year. Bringing back common sense. My goodness. And he is, as you all know. Health systems across the nation stopped or downsized their sex change programs for minors following President Trump's Protecting Children from Chemical and Surgical Mutilation. It was an executive order. In Illinois, Chicago, Lurie's Children's Hospital paused sex change surgeries for patients under 19 as it works to understand the rapidly evolving environment. Can you imagine anybody operating on a child that way at that age? I cannot. Demons. All right. In Colorado, Denver Health announced that it would stop performing sex change surgeries on minor children, while UC Health said it was ending so-called gender-affirming care for all minors. In Washington, D.C., the Children's National Hospital paused prescribing puberty blockers and hormone therapies for minors, while Northwest Washington Hospital did the same. In Virginia, VCU Health and Children's Hospital of Richmond suspended providing transgender-related medication and surgeries for minors, while UVA Health also suspended transgender-related services for minors. President Trump ended the unfair, demeaning practice of forcing women to compete against men in sports, which resulted in the NCAA changing its rules. The Department of Education launched investigations into California Interscholastic Federation and the Minnesota State High School League over their failures to comply. President Trump made it the official policy of the U.S. government that there were only and will only be two sexes. Thank you very much. President Trump banned COVID-19 vaccine mandates at schools that receive federal funding. President Trump rolled back the Biden-era push to mandate paper straws. President Trump instructed the Secretary of the Treasury to stop production of the penny, which cost 3.69 cents each to make. President Trump directed full enforcement of the Hyde Amendment, which bars taxpayer dollars from being used to fund or promote elective abortion. The Department of Transportation terminated the approval for New York City's burdensome congestion pricing scheme. And we're still not finished. This is month 1, by the way. Restoring the accountability and transparency in government. Well, President Trump established the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, to maximize government productivity and to ensure the best use of taxpayer funds, which has already achieved billions of dollars in savings for taxpayers. President Trump commenced his plan to downsize the federal bureaucracy and eliminate waste, bloat, and insularity. He also ordered federal workers to return to the office 5 days a week. And all you heard was wee, wee, wee from the left. Unbelievable. These people do not want to work. President Trump ordered federal agencies to hire no more than 1 employee for every 4 employees who leave. President Trump ended the wasteful Federal Executive Institute, which had become a training ground for bureaucrats. President Trump ordered the termination of all federal fake news media contracts. Yep, he shredded those right before their eyes. President Trump ordered the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the brainchild of Elizabeth Warren, which funneled cash to the left-wing advocacy groups to halt operations. This is why she's banging on her Indian drum. You got that right. She is not an Indian. Pocahontas was sitting there screaming and protesting. I haven't seen her in years, it didn't seem like, until all of a sudden they started messing with her money, and then there she is. She appears. President Trump ordered an end to the anti-Christian bias in the federal government. President Trump ordered an examination of all regulations to assess any infringements on Americans' Second Amendment rights. The Environmental Protection Agency canceled tens of millions of dollars in contracts to left-wing advocacy groups, announced an investigation into a scheme by Biden EPA staffers to shield billions of dollars from oversight and accountability, and put 168 environmental justice employees on leave. President Trump stopped the waste, fraud, and abuse within USAID, ensuring taxpayers are no longer on the hook for funding the pet projects of entrenched bureaucrats such as sex changes in Guatemala. President Trump ordered an end to the weaponization of the federal government against American citizens. Imagine that. The Department of Justice, I guess I have to retire that one too. I used to call it the Department of Injustice, but now there is going to be justice restored, immediately began rooting out politically motivated lawfare that occurred in the Biden administration. President Trump reversed the massive overexpansion of the IRS that took place during the Biden administration. President Trump, he also eliminated discriminatory DEI offices, employees, and practices across the bureaucracy, alongside a return to merit-based hiring, including at the Federal Aviation Administration, where the Biden administration specifically recruited individuals with intellectual disabilities and psychiatric issues. Yeah, that happened. As a result, taxpayer-funded PBS closed its DEI office. Disney dropped 2 of its DEI programs. Goldman Sachs ended its DEI policy, and the Institutional Shareholder Services announced it would no longer consider diversity of company boards when making its voting recommendations. The Federal Communications Commission opened an investigation into discriminatory DEI policies at Comcast, an entity it regulates. President Trump ordered an end to all censorship of Americans by the federal government. President Trump ordered a review of funding for all non-governmental organizations, so taxpayers are no longer funding those that undermined America's interests. The Department of State issued a pause on existing foreign aid grants to ensure accountability and efficiency. President Trump also listed a last-minute collective bargaining agreement issued by the Biden administration, which sought to impede reform. President Trump overrode bureaucratic red tape that limited water availability in California following the failure of the state's water system during the devastating wildfires. And yes, during all of this, they had this crummy little rule where they said, oh, you can't do your laundry and shower at the same time. That's not going to last much longer. President Trump terminated the Biden-era electric vehicle mandate. President Trump suspended the Biden-era EV charging program, which had resulted in just 8 charging stations, despite $7.5 billion earmarked for the program. President Trump shut down the wasteful Biden-era Climate Corps program. The Federal Communications Commission, they took action against Soros-backed radio stations that leaked sensitive information about ICE operations. Yes, they were able to trace it back to you-know-who, Soros. President Trump ordered the declassification of documents related to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy Jr., Robert F. Kennedy, and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. President Trump has also opened the White House press briefing room to non-legacy media outlets as the White House sets a new standard for transparency in the digital age. President Trump reinstated press privileges for roughly 440 journalists who the Biden administration sought to silence. President Trump fired members of the Kennedy Center's Board of Trustees amid their obsession with perpetrating radical left-wing ideology at taxpayer expense. President Trump also revoked the security clearances of the 51 spies who lied, which was fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. You know they're fuming. President Trump also established, this is how he has empowered the American people. He has established the Make America Healthy Again Commission, which redirects the national focus to promoting health rather than simply managing disease. President Trump has also taken executive action to expand access into in vitro fertilization, IVF. President Trump has established the White House Faith Office to protect Americans' religious liberties. President Trump ordered an end to the radical indoctrination of children in K-12 schools that receive federal funding. President Trump also took executive action to support parents in choosing the best education for their children. Trump also established the Presidential Working Group on Digital Assets Market to strengthen U.S. leadership in digital finance. President Trump also granted full and unconditional pardons to 23 pro-life Americans who were unjustly persecuted by the Biden administration. President Trump also pardoned 2 Washington, D.C. police officers who were in prison simply for doing their jobs of apprehending criminals. President Trump has had his cabinet confirmed by the Senate at a far faster pace than his predecessors, with a majority of his cabinet earning confirmation in his first month. And do you know why that is? You showed up. You gave President Trump a mandate. So when we talk about not being able to keep up with what the White House is doing, that whole list that I just read off is only as good as today.